Hi everyone, my name is Lucia Wang, and today we're going to talk about 6 signs of an unhealthy relationship. A common question I hear is, what are the signs of an unhealthy relationship? Unlike a successful relationship that is healthy, sometimes a failed relationship is unhealthy. So today we're going to talk about the 6 signs of an unhealthy relationship by the 6 letters of the word failed, Failed. So beginning with F, if you're fighting too much, when both partners are fighting with each other too much. And this usually happens when there are constant power struggles and rehashing of the same arguments that never get resolved. Instead of finding a common solution or mutual compromise, the two would rather battle it out and create hard feelings instead of resolving the problems. Okay, so let me just stop right here. Um, this is a sign that the relationship is becoming unhealthy is when you're fighting too much. Um, it's normal to fight. Okay, everyone's gonna have their. Not everyone's gonna agree all the time, so it's normal that couples will fight. But if you're fighting every day and it's over the same issues, um, that's a sign that the relationship is getting unhealthy. Because in a healthy relationship, you want to resolve problems. So the fact that you're not finding solutions to the problems and you're just rehashing the same fights over and over again, and you guys know what I'm talking about, right? If for those of us who've been married or been in a long-term relationship for a long time, this happens unfortunately, and so just something to keep in mind. Okay, and then A for addictions in general, alcohol, drugs, including being a workaholic. When one or both partners have an addiction, the problem with addictions is that they block true intimacy that is needed to form a healthy relationship. So let me say that again. The problem with addictions is that they block true intimacy that is needed to form a healthy relationship. Addictions have control over the person, and the addictions will always be the number one highest priority over over all the people and things. So that's why this is kind of something we need to be careful of. Okay, I know many of us like to drink, and some of us smoke, and that's okay to an extent. Um, but all addictions are, to the extreme is not good. I mean, if you have an occasional drink once in a while to unwind every Friday, if you want to have a drink, it's fine. But when it becomes a source of a way to cope with stress or to escape the problems and the stress, that's when it becomes unhealthy. And even if you have to have, people have said, if you have to have one drink a day, you have to have it. It's an addiction. It's not so much. We often think of people going to the bar and getting totally drunk and not being able to drive home as our image of someone that's has a serious alcoholic addiction. But it's not it's that's one extreme example. But if you have to have a drink every single day, you can't live without a drink every single day, then that's considered an addiction. Okay, and this includes drugs too. If we all know that people that have drug problems, it's a serious problem, and some of these drugs out there are very addictive, very, and so it's easy to be, and a lot of not just like there's other alcohol, there's other drugs that's like there's marijuana, right? And I know there's other medical prescription drugs that are also very addictive. So we just need to be careful of the reasons why we're actually having the addictions, and how often that we're actually you know doing those things, because in reality this will stand between you and your partner. When people have addictions, their addiction is the highest priority in their life. Okay, just like a gambling addiction. We've heard people that have lost their homes over people that have a gambling problem, right? It's an addiction. It's a disease that has to be cured. It has to be healed. And so when it's not, we've heard of stories where people, they gamble their house away, and it's not a laughing matter. It's very serious. And drug addicts will steal at some point. If they don't have enough money, they'll go out and steal, and they start creating other crimes just so they can get their fix. So we need to be careful, to not enable that. If we have a partner that has an addiction, we need to make sure they get some help. We have to intervene and make sure they get some help. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem in the relationship. Okay. The addictions will not only destroy relationships, but ultimately compromises the emotional and physical health of the addict. Let me say that again. Addictions will not only destroy relationships, but ultimately compromises the emotional and physical health of the addict. So, so admitting and acknowledging you have a problem is the first step towards healing and then taking action to get help needed to end the destructive addictions. Healthy relationships require both partners to be healthy, so having addictions is a sign of an unhealthy relationship. Okay? Okay, letter I for ignoring. When both partners are ignoring each other and they're not fighting at all, the two partners are no longer communicating, no longer caring about the happiness of each other or the relationship. And an example would be the couples that are not engaging in conversation, and you usually see them at the restaurant. They're, I'm sure you guys have seen couples in restaurants where they're not saying very much to each other. They don't hardly say a word to each other, and they're on their phones the whole time, right? And they're just doing their own thing. The husband, wife, or the boyfriend, girlfriend, they're just in their own world, looking at their phones. They're not even conversing, interacting with each other. They're just waiting for their food to come. And so instead of talking with each other, right, they're not even they're just ignoring each other. This shows a relationship where both partners have given up putting forth the effort to work on improving the relationship, and instead they choose to ignore each other and neglect the relationship. So, folks, we have to be careful about this. This is a common thing that happens, especially if you've been in a relationship for long term. Um, as I've said in my previous videos, we tend to all take each other for granted, and next thing you know, we just start ignoring each other. Okay, so we just need to keep that in mind. Okay, and the next one is L for lazy. When both partners start getting lazy by taking each other for granted, they stop being grateful and are not making the effort to show up as their best selves to their partner. This laziness usually turns into craziness, and that's when a relationship turns toxic. In my previous video of the number one reason why a relationship becomes toxic, it provides more information about the process of laziness, craziness, and how to prevent it. So be sure to check out that video if you haven't seen it yet. That yeah, I did a video on that a while back. A few weeks I had done a video on that, and if you haven't seen it yet, folks, I would highly recommend that you go look at that video. It does talk about how a relationship can slowly get crazy. It starts out as lazy, which is what we're talking about right now, and if we're not careful and we let the laziness continue, eventually gets crazy, and then before you know it, we're in this thing where I call the lazy craziness, and that's not a good sign because that's when it gets to that point, it's getting toxic. Okay, so I is for ignoring, so we don't want to ignore that. And then L is for lazy, which we did that. In healthy relationships, there's gratitude for each other every day, and partners put their best foot forward to show up as the best version of themselves for their partners. Okay, let me say it again. In healthy relationships, there's gratitude for each other every day, and partners put their best foot forward to show up as the best version of themselves for their partners. Okay, so we need to be careful of being lazy. Okay, E for egotistical. When one or both partners behave in a self centered manner and feel they are more important than their partner. So instead of being humble and treating the relationship and a partner as a team of equal importance, they selfishly only think of themselves. In a healthy relationship, it's not about you or me, but we. So the partners are not egotistical and self centered, but instead they are humble and we centered. Okay, so let me say this again. Um, when one or both partners behave in a self centered manner and feel they are more important than their partner, so instead of being humble and treating the relationship and partner as a team of equal importance, they selfishly only think of themselves. In a healthy relationship, it's not about you or me, but we. So the partners are not egotistical and self-centered, but instead they are humble and we-centered. Okay? So this is something we see also very common when relationships start to get unhealthy. This is the things that also happen too. After a while, we just stop looking at our partners as an equal, and instead we get irritated and annoyed with them, and before you know it, we view them as they're inferior to us. They're not equal to us. And then we start just thinking about ourselves and our own needs, and we're no longer focused on a mutual relationship where both needs are met. Okay. Okay, last but not least, D for disrespectful. Many behaviors are considered disrespectful, and it's usually one or both partners are regularly being sarcastic, extremely critical, finding faults and correcting each other in conversations. They could be rude, it could be mean, unsupportive, unfaithful, insulting comments, name calling, verbal abuse, yelling at each other, etc. These are all examples, and there's more. I didn't, I'm sure you guys can think of more. I didn't put all of them down there, but this is the list I came up with that all fall under being disrespectful. Okay, and in healthy relationships, there's a mutual respect, honor, and appreciation for each other. Okay, so this is something we see also that happens a lot in relationships that are becoming unhealthy. There's just a lack of respect. If you look at the couples, you could tell by their eyes and their mannerisms, right? They just don't have that awe of respect for their partner anymore. And you can tell when they're just annoyed at their partner, they don't want to hear what the partner has to say, and then become disrespectful, right? And I'll just say this again. They could become sarcastic, extremely critical, finding faults, and correcting each other in conversations, rude, mean, unsupportive, unfaithful, insulting comments, name calling, verbal abuse, yelling at each other, etc. So these are all examples, and there's more. This is not the whole list, but this is just the main ones that I thought of. So as a recap, the 6 signs of an unhealthy relationship are: F for fighting, you're just fighting way too much. A for addictions, one or both have addictions. I for ignoring, you guys are ignoring each other. L for being lazy, L for lazy. E for egotistical, when you're self-centered versus we-centered. And D for disrespectful, okay, when the one or both of you are disrespectful to one another. If your relationship is unhealthy, you and your partner need to seek couples counseling to work through all the problems before it's too late. As long as both parties still value each other and the relationship, there's still hope to heal and strengthen the relationship to make it healthy again. And if your partner won't go, then you go alone to get help for yourself. It will help you heal, work on your own issues, and give you the perspective and clarity on what the next steps ahead are. Okay, so let me just say again. I hear this a lot. People say, "Well, my so and so, my husband or my wife or my partner will not go to counseling. What do I do?" Okay, well, if they won't go, we can't, folks. We all know we're all adults now. We cannot make other people do what we want them to do, right? You're responsible for your own actions only, ever. Okay, we're all adults here, right? And so your partner, if he or she doesn't want to go, you can't force that person to go. And if they go because you want them to go or you threaten them to go, it's not sincere, right? You want your partner to be all in. They have to also feel that they're invested. They want to help make the relationship work. If you're just forcing them to, then it's not sincere, and ultimately it's going to fail anyway because their heart's not in it. So we need to be careful of how forceful we want to be. You can ask your partner nicely, tell them, "Hey, look, we've tried this and we keep arguing over the same thing over and over again. Um, I'm tired. I'm emotionally drained. Can we both go to counseling? I'd like for us to finally solve all our issues and get on the same page again, so we can both be happy. Will you go with me to counseling?" And this is how you want to approach it. And if they say no, then it's no. Then you can say, "Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I'm going to get help for myself because I feel that I need it. I've been feeling really stressed out, and I like to get help for myself so I know how to cope with this relationship." And that's all you have to say. And so I would recommend that you go. That absolutely. If your partner doesn't go, the reason why I say that you should go, I know a lot of couples at that point want to throw in the towel, and I caution that we don't want to be so quick, especially if you've been in a long term relationship. Obviously, there was something there from the beginning. This is not. It's not like you've just been, it's not like you've just been married for 3 months or something, right? I mean, you guys have, if you've been in there for years, or you've been dating, if you've been living with someone for quite a while, or you've dated someone for a few years, you both have invested time, right? So I don't think we should be so quick to jump out of the relationship. I think we need to give it our best shot, and if your partner doesn't want to go, it's not over yet. Okay, they're hear me out. This is the reason why I'm advocating that the person that if your partner won't go, you still should go, and this is why. Because if you go, you will also you will get a different perspective. You'll have a neutral party who can hear you out. They can give you, hopefully, if you find a licensed trained counselor that you're comfortable with. Okay, don't just settle for anyone that comes along. I would make a list of maybe 3 or 4 or 5 counselors, and then go visit each one and see, or read it, or do homework on each one and see which one you think would suit you. Okay, and again, if you're not comfortable with your counselor, find another one. Okay, you don't have to settle for the first counselor that you talk to. If you're not comfortable talking to the counselor, or the counselor is doesn't sometimes personalities don't match, right? So if you feel uncomfortable with whoever that you find, go find another one. But it's important that you go, and the reason is because you're also at the point where you're frustrated, okay, and you're probably not seeing things clearly, because most of us, when we're angry, we don't have our perspective. Okay, it's limited because we're so angry, and usually when we're in the trees, right, in the forest, we can't see the whole picture. That's just the way it is. When you're day in day out arguing with your partner, you're arguing over the same things. Okay, you're just as frustrated as your partner, and so you yourself are not 100% healthy either, right? It takes two, right? It takes two people to argue, and so and there are collateral damages from all this negative, unhealthy kind of interaction, right? At this point, you're probably just as on edge as your partner, and you guys are just feeding off of each other and not getting along. So, going to counseling, you have a third party, neutral party that can, look at things objectively, hear your side out, and give you recommendations of what you can do to heal. Okay, this is going to be about you, and this is why it's important. You need to get well. Okay, the last thing you want to do is file for divorce or break up with this person right away, right? And then now you're going to throw yourself back into the dating scene, only to maybe rehash, just you'll just reinvent the same pattern. Okay, that's why you need to heal, because if you don't heal, you take this baggage, from your previous relationship onto your next relationship, and then the cycle repeats itself all over again. So you just can't keep jumping from ship to ship. Okay, that never solves anything, because you're the common denominator in all those situations. Okay, at some point you're gonna have to come to terms with the fact that, wait a minute, I've just had 5 relationships in the last 5 years, and they all end up the same way. Well, why? Well, you're the common denominator. Okay, so if you get help and you heal, okay, chances are you won't make the same mistake again. Okay, chances are, if you're really serious about healing and getting well, you chances are you will not make the same mistake again. You also need to learn self love. Usually in these kind of unhealthy relationships, there's a codependency factor in there. Whether it's you or your partner, or both of you may have a codependency issue. So that's got to be resolved. And there may be childhood wounds that you're not aware of. But all these things will be worked out so that you can practice, you can learn to love yourself, learn how to how to set the boundaries, right? For inappropriate kind of behavior or toxic behavior. So you're gonna, you just go to counseling. You go for yourself, okay? And what this does is that once you start healing and you start practicing some of the healthy communication techniques that your counselor will teach you, it may turn things around in your relationship. And the reason why is this: nothing ever stays the same. You heard me say, if you haven't seen my other videos, I've said quite often that we're all of us are always changing and evolving. Okay, so as we change, our relationships are going to change. Okay, if you think back, you're not the same person you were 30 years ago, 20 years ago, or 10 years ago. We are constantly evolving, all of us. And when we change, our relationships have to change with us, right? So, and again, it's just it's an organic kind of change. It's not something you have to force, okay? Once you get better, once you start healing, you'll be happier, you'll be stronger, emotionally. You'll have the right tools to deal, to be able to communicate properly and effectively, and you'll see your relationship and your partner in a different from a different perspective. Okay, and so you'll be in a position of strength to deal with the situation. You'll be able to set healthy boundaries. Okay, and I honestly believe that there's still hope that your relationship will turn around just by you going to counseling alone, and because your partner will notice the change in you. So they're going to either have to jump on board and change with you and become better and treat you better, because you're not going to tolerate anything less. Okay, at this point, once you heal, okay, if your goal is to really, at that point you'll be able to be in a position to deal with the existing problems in your marriage, or in your relationship. Your partner's going to have to react. Your partner will react to you one way or another. Okay, and they'll either change with you. They'll like to change. They'll be surprised that you have a different attitude towards them, that you're no longer attacking them or making them, or being putting them on the defensive. Right? They're going to notice these subtle changes that you've made working on yourself. And they have a decision to make whether they're going to change with you or they're not. Okay, but either way, you're still in a great spot, and because if they choose not to change with you, which I do hear sometimes, people say, well, my spouse, they're still the same, they're still behaving toxic, they're still having their toxic kind of behaviors, and they're not, they're breaking all my boundaries, and they're just being, vicious and mean. If that happens, and they continue to practice being destructive, then that's the point you'll know when to end it. Okay, you at that point you can honestly say with a clear conscience, you put your best foot forward. Right, you've done everything you can to save the relationship. You will honestly feel that way if you take a few months off, 3 to 6 months, and you work on yourself, and you become better, stronger, healthier. Right, you've worked through all your childhood issues, um, and at that point you'll feel happier as well, and you'll know how to self-love. Right, you'll be practicing that every day. uh, you'll be in a better position at that point, in a mindset too. You'll be healthier mindset too, to be able to deal with this. And so at that point, if your partner's not willing to go with you, not change with you to improve the relationship, then you'll know the right time to finally just end the relationship. Okay, because as I've said, it does take two. It takes two people to make and break a relationship. You cannot have a relationship where it's just one sided. That will never work. And frankly, once you heal, you will not tolerate any kind of mistreatment or any kind of toxic behavior in your relationship ever again. And when you meet somebody new, if the relationship doesn't work and you end up finding someone new in the future, you'll be practicing this self love all the time, and you'll be in a much better, healthier, stronger position to deal with all future relationships, so that it never becomes unhealthy again. Okay, so that's why I would like to say to all of you, you still go to counseling alone if your partner doesn't go with you, because if nothing else, it will help you. Okay, it will help you, and the benefit, the bonus that could happen is it could help. It could actually be a game changer for your relationship. Um, it happens. It really does happen. I mean, two people. If you've been in a unhealthy, if two people have been in an unhealthy relationship for a very long time, if one person changes for the better, and they they deal with it in a mature, healthy manner, the other person will have to decide what they want to do. They're going to see the change in you. They will either realize that you're serious, and that this is very serious, that they're going to actually change with you, or they will get angrier, the opposite. Right, they'll, instead of being an eye opener and realizing this is very serious, that you will leave him or her. um, they will decide whether they're going to change with you and make changes for themselves, or they're not. If they choose not to, and they get angry, and you'll know when they won't, because they'll still act the same way, they'll still disrespect you, and then um, the toxic behaviors will continue. Right, so if that's the case, then you'll know when to end the relationship. Okay, and then you'll walk away again with a clear conscience that you've given it all you got at this point. No regrets. Okay, the biggest regret I hear people say is at the heat of a moment of an argument, they just make a life changing decision. They decide to end it. Either call for a divorce or they walk out on somebody. That's never the best answer. You cannot make good decisions under that kind of anger. When people are angry, when two people are angry, they're not in the right mindset to be making any kind of life changing sort of decision. It's best to cool off always, even if you say something that you don't mean. I mean, and this happens, right? People say mean things. Oh, I'm going to divorce you, or I hate you, and all this other stuff, or I want to leave you, or why don't you get out of my life? I mean, people when people argue, they can be vicious, right? That's just human nature. And I'm not excusing it. I don't think it's the proper way to communicate, but it happens. And so we got to be careful not to make any hasty decisions in that heat of anger, that heat of the moment. We need to step back and cool off. Um, so this way you don't have regrets. Like I said, if you just walk away, then at some point in the future you may look back and say, well, have I given it my best shot? Did I hastily end it when I shouldn't have? Right? So this situation, if you just go ahead and get help for yourself, this gives you a break. Also gives you a mental break from this whole unhealthy relationship. Give yourself a break, get counseling, get comfort, heal yourself, and at that point, you will be able to come back and approach your relationship in a healthy manner. And if it doesn't work out, still, you won't have any regrets. You'll be in a better mindset and position that you can move forward at this point, and you won't have any regrets. Okay. So, folks, life is too short to be unhappy, and at the very least, if nothing else, counseling will help you heal and be happy again. All right. And before I go, I just want to show you this last recent book I wrote. Fairy Tales Are for Frogs: The Reality of Happily Ever After. For those of you who are in long-term relationships or you've been married for a while and you feel unhappy, this is a good read. Okay. Um, a lot of people get worried, and a lot of people are unhappy when they're in relationships after a while, and they think something's wrong with the relationship, right? Or they think they need to end the relationship because one or both parties aren't happy, or not feeling happy anymore, or they fell out of love. That's another common thing I hear. Oh, well, I'm not in love with my spouse anymore, or they're not in love with me anymore, or my spouse told me they don't love me anymore, or my girlfriend or my boyfriend told me they don't love me anymore. What should I do? This book will help you, okay? Because um, it will talk about how we were, in the fairy tales we grew up with, we think it's happily ever after, right? We think it's just magically we're all going to be happily ever after we get married or be in a committed relationship, and that's not the case. Okay, a relationship will get to a point where there's real love, so the romantic love is not there anymore, so you won't feel that magical being in love feeling, but that doesn't mean the relationship's over. Okay, real love has nothing to do with romantic love. But this book will help you deal with the unhappiness in your relationship and give you steps on how to find your happiness from within. Okay, it's a good book. It's a short read. I don't write any of the books that are long. It's a short read for those of you who don't have a lot of time. It won't take you long to finish reading it, but I would highly recommend this book. If for those of you who are feeling unhappy in a relationship, or you think that it should be over because one or both of you feel that you're no longer in love with your partner. Okay, so check that out, and you can find it on my link in my YouTube channel. There's a link of all the books I have. There you can get it through the Amazon.com. And I hope this video was helpful to all of you. And if you like it, please click like and click share. Put comments below if you have any comments or questions you want to ask me. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And until next time, until I see you again, I hope you guys are going to be happy. And until next time, I will see you again soon. Bye.